How's it going? I'm Branden Steineckert. I play drums for the band Rancid. I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts tonight playing the House of Blues as a part of Rancid's 20th anniversary shows we're doing right now. I've been in the band for 5 years now, and they've had a incredible career going on 20 years, and things are awesome. So we're enjoying kicking it off and doing 2 nights here. I've been playing drums professionally for 10 years now. I've been a Vater artist for 10 years this year. I joined up with them in 2002 and haven't looked back. You know what I mean? I've been so happy with everything from the product to the relationship with the company and everything. It's home for me as far as sticks. It's the backbone of what I do, quite literally. I have been using Vater Power 5Bs, I think for 10 years now at least, ever since I first hooked up with Vater. I'm very, very particular to these sticks, the weight, the way they feel, everything. I've always used the nylon tips. Everything about it, I mean, they're just, the way I play, you know, I need a little bit of weight to my playing. I need to be able to throw the sticks around and not feel like I'm playing with pencils, you know what I mean? It's just so important to me. Everything from the way the wood's treated and feels to the thickness to everything. It's like I'm not slinging baseball bats, but I'm not throwing a number 2 pencil around either, you know? It's that perfect balance of everything. And for me, nylon tips were always like, I love like letting the tip do its job, basically, you know? Like, I want to hear it on the ride. I want to hear it if I choose to on the hi-hat. Like, I want to hear it with wherever I choose to use it. And a problem I used to have back in the day with sticks was like breaking off a part of the wood tip, you know, and getting that flat edge or something that might sharpen it, and next thing I'm stabbing through heads or I'm whatever, or just playing with softened wood that's broken away or something. For me, the nylon tip just is so consistent. I know exactly how it's going to sound, how it's going to feel every time, and best of all, I never lose tips. Like, I love these sticks. I've played other sticks, won't say what, back in the day before I was with Vater. Sure enough, you play with nylon tips, and that was like, they were like a cap, you know what I mean? Like downbeat and 2 caps went flying off, and then you're playing with 2 spears, you know, and these have been the best because they never come off. They feel so good, and I'm a lifer, you know. The Vater Power 5B nylon tip, it's my stick of choice. I started playing drums when I was about 16 years old, and I'm 34 now as of April. Growing up, you know, I was a skateboarder. Started skateboarding when I was like 11 years old. My father unfortunately passed away when I was 11. He committed suicide, and so I was just looking for an outlet, you know, something to do with my life. I kind of felt very lost as a child, and you know, growing up as an 11-year-old and the process and things we're going through at that age and becoming a teenager, you know, those are pretty brutal years to not have a father figure properly in your life. So I just needed something, an outlet. I was becoming a very angry kid, you know, and so I found skateboarding. That was kind of my salvation, you know, and I lived for that. A lot of my friends and things that I hung out with in that kind of crew of skaters where I grew up, I grew up in Utah, mostly Utah County. Everybody kind of started to party a little bit and dabble in smoking weed and drinking and whatever, and just like all that stuff. But for me, there was enough going on at home, enough drama, you know. My mother remarried months after my father passed away, and that was a very abusive relationship and a lot of violence and things going on at home. And so naturally I became even more and more aggressive and angry, and and kind of lost. As a teenager, you know, I was just a hardcore skateboarder. That's all I lived for. That was my outlet. School meant nothing to me. You know, I was an outcast from the outcasts, you know, and that's kind of been, I guess, my role in life, I feel like, a lot. But, you know, growing up in a kind of lower class family that, you know, didn't have much for money, didn't have, you know, much for anything, you know, and so music was literally, I mean, honestly, dating back to when I was a skater, music didn't even exist in my life because I didn't own a stereo, I didn't have anything, you know what I mean, just a skateboard. So the more my friends began to party and get into that scene, I just didn't want to invite the extra potential for problems in my life, you know. It was between the violence at home, between the emotional, everything I was dealing with the loss of my father, I didn't need to invite any more pain and anything into my life, you know. So I chose to remain sober, drug-free. I have been my entire life. I've never once touched substances at all, you know, and never like made a claim to it. I never put like a, you know, claim straight edge or anything like that. It was just simply I wanted to remain a sober person, and I wanted to have my head on and a clear focus of what I wanted in life, and I wanted to take things head on, you know. I didn't want the crutch of something to help get me through hard times. I wanted to just, I knew I was going to be stronger if I did it without the help of something that wasn't real to me, you know. So I guess in that sense, skateboarding was that to me. When I was 15 or 16, I was having a hard time, and I stumbled over a photo of my father, and I had long hair at the time, and it was this picture of him wearing this like Beatles wig, and him sitting behind a drum set, and I remembered he was a drummer when he was a teenager, and supposed to be a pretty good drummer actually. So so I was just like, you know what, like I want to start playing drums. Like I want to do something to take after my father, you know, to honor his memory in a good way, other than just dwelling on these negative thoughts and all this stuff that I was dealing with, and thoughts of suicide, and just a real dark time, you know. And I wanted to flip it and to turn it into something good. So I worked my ass off and saved up, and I bought a drum set. You know, I had never played a musical instrument in my life. You know, I was 15, 16 years old, barely buying my first cassettes, you know, and CDs, and I just took a stab at drums. I took drum lessons for maybe a month, and that was just simply on a practice pad reading like the fundamentals of snare drum book, you know, and I had no interest in that whatsoever. It totally lost me, and like just about made me not want to play drums anymore, because I just had no interest in like that side of the music. I just wanted to hit something and honor my father, you know. And so I just started jamming along to music I liked, playing with friends of mine that I met that were musicians as well. We liked a lot of the same music, and like I would literally just go home and just hit the drums and just vent and let it all out, and just be screaming and playing drums, and it was really just my outlet. Instead of getting in fights and punching something else, I was beating up a drum set, you know, and it got out all my aggression and any violence and inner demons I had, and I took it out on the kit, and next thing you know, it kind of started to groove, and it started to work, you know. And I met up with a bass player who actually could play, and some guitarists who could play, and I was trying to keep up with them, and it kind of forced me to improve, and like it was crazy, because suddenly like it got to a point, me and my friends played a concert in like, well, a house party really, and something about that just got me so high. Like I've never felt like that. I was like, all right, now I get it, you know what I mean? Because it took me somewhere else. I was just, I wouldn't know how to explain it, but the best natural high I'd ever felt in my life, you know. And so I was hooked then, you know. I started playing more and more shows and starting bands that were terrible, of course, you know, playing everything from funk to punk rock to hardcore to everything in between, you know. But we just did what we loved, you know. And then I started a band, you know, did that for years and years, and then finally was just like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right. I had dropped out of high school. I had committed everything. I had been homeless for years. It was nothing but a pair of sticks that were duct taped together, and a drum set and a skateboard were all I had, you know. And And so I was in for life, you know. It was like no looking back. I needed to make it happen. And I started a band, you know. My friends and I had a lot of things going on at the time, and so I started a band, and I named it Used, with 3 friends of mine, and we were looking around for a singer, and this guy Bert that had sang for some local bands was a great singer, sang for a hardcore band. We knew he could scream like no one else, you know, and so we asked him to kind of try out for our band, and it was incredible what the 4 of us had, our chemistry. And around the same time, the band Refused, the video of their song New Noise was surfacing, and we had stumbled upon that. And I remember Quinn, the guitarist of the Used, him and I found this video online, and we watched this music video of New Noise, and that was one of those like pivotal moments in my life that changed me completely. You know, like seeing like these guys that were dressed like the Beatles, you know, and yet playing what seemed to be hardcore, but was so different, and there were like these electronic elements and everything. It was exactly the song title. It was New Noise, and it was perfect, you know, and it struck a nerve inside me and inside Quinn that resonated different than any punk rock or hardcore or any music had ever done for us. And right then we literally went and wrote a song together, and later that song was titled Maybe Memories, and it was the opening song on the first Used record. And if you listen to that song, you can hear the Refused influence, you know what I mean? But so we just kind of took a totally different turn with our writing, and our approach to music was just like, instead of trying to emulate these bands we loved so much, these punk bands, and whether, you know, he was obsessed with Radiohead and I was obsessed with Rancid and Social Distortion and The Clash and Rage Against the Machine and Nirvana and all these like rad bands, and he was like into arty stuff, and our bass player was into weird stuff, and everybody came from different areas. But instead of trying to like write a song that sounded like one band and another one that sounded like another one, we finally let all that go and just let it influence us rather than trying to emulate it. And that became the sound that was the Used. I recorded like some home demos on an 8-track I had, and I submitted them to a producer who was just green, brand new producer, John Feldman, who sang for a band Goldfinger that I was a big fan of. He had only produced like 2 bands that had been signed to that point, and they were both pop punk bands, you know. But I was just recording these songs, and I started emailing them to him, and he liked them and hit me up one day and was like, hey, I want to bring your band out and produce a few songs for you guys. And we were flipping out, you know. I remember getting that call, and it was unreal. We were all freaking out. I mean, we came from a small town in Utah. There had never been a signed band in Utah State history, you know what I mean? Like, there was a band called Iceburn that signed to Revelation Records, and Donnie and Marie Osmond. Other than that, there's no claim to fame for Utah State, you know. And so the idea that this Los Angeles producer was hitting us up to record us was unheard of, like unreal. So we went out to LA, recorded Maybe Memories, a song called The Taste of Ink that we wrote about being in Utah and just kind of feeling like you're nowhere and whatever. But then we rewrote the chorus when we got to LA and we were recording. We rewrote the chorus about being there and the fact that that might be as good as it gets, and we just wanted to literally savor every moment of it, you know. And so it was a real humility song where we were just so grateful for this opportunity, and we didn't expect much, you know, like we were just loving what we were doing. A couple other songs we did that started getting shopped around, and before we knew it, we had a dozen labels trying to sign us, and it was a crazy whirlwind. And we ended up signing with Warner Brothers. We made our debut album with John Feldman, and everything ever since then has been a whirlwind, you know. I put out 2 full-length records with the Used and 2 live DVDs, and had an incredible career, you know, sold millions of records worldwide with the Used, and I love it. That was some of the best years of my life, you know. Unfortunately, around 2006, our differences in lifestyles caught up with us. You know, we had decided to we were using 2 tour buses at the time, and we made one the sober tour bus, and one was the party tour bus. You know, circumstances would have it that it led to me being the only sober member of the band, and everybody else was partiers, you know? So it was like me and some crew guys on the sober bus, and everybody else in the band and a couple partier crew guys on the other bus, and it just started to build a wall that we didn't intend to build, but it created a separation between of us, unfortunately. And then later in 2006, we were about to make a record, and you know, our guitarist at the time just was at a point where he felt like he wanted someone more like them in the band, someone that, you know, I was engaged to my girlfriend at the time, and they were all just kind of single and living it up and partying and doing their thing. They wanted someone more like them, was what I was told, and that I was too different. So I sadly was fired from that band. It totally broke my heart. I didn't expect it. You know, I'm so heavily involved in the business and everything about the band's career, and making it everything it could be while maintaining the integrity and the importance of what we loved about our music and our band and our career, you know. So I was heartbroken and really kind of at a loss where, you know, if my brothers, my bandmates, you know, the producer, our manager, my label, if everybody could allow that kind of thing to happen and actually back that kind of decision, I figured that was an industry I didn't want to have a part of. You know, I was so heartbroken and so crushed, you know, that, you know, my best interest was always for the band and our career and longevity and integrity, you know, and passion and the love for the music. Like, never mind the sex, drugs, and whatever. I just wanted to rock and roll, you know. And so it was so heartbreaking. And there was a couple months right there that was a really, you know, since the loss of my father, that was some of the hardest time in my life. But I did have a small handful of people that were lifesavers to me, you know. People's true colors really came out. Suddenly I wasn't Branden from the Used, I was just Branden. And it's surprising how many people you lose because of that, because I didn't suddenly have that title to something bigger and greater, you know. And but a dear friend of mine and mentor and huge influence and just one of the greatest guys on earth, Weinberg, played a crucial part in everything to me. He was calling me daily and just like checking on me and giving me pep talks and just like being so rad, being so supportive, and just like giving me legal advice, giving me like drumming advice, anything I needed, you know, and just being an ear. And he was just like, listen, you know, when Bruce broke up the E Street Band, I was crushed. And he's like, Ringo Starr would call me and give me pep talks every day. And he's like, I see this as like my chance to return the favor, and I can completely empathize with your situation. And he was just rooting for me and believed in me, you know. And to have a drumming legend like that calling me on the phone every day, just little old me who, like, I felt like I was no one at this point because people were treating me like I was no one, you know. And to have him like support me and believe in me so much meant the world to me. So there was one night, my wife at the time, we were driving to Salt Lake City to see our favorite band, like one of our favorite bands of all time, which happens to be Rancid. We were driving to Salt Lake City to see Rancid play, and the whole drive up, it's like 45 minutes. The whole drive up, I was on the phone with Max, getting another Weinberg pep talk, you know, and he's just like, keep trying, don't give up, you know. He's like, keep playing, do your thing. And then I get to the Rancid show, and I had known those guys from a Warped Tour that the Used and Rancid did together, and so they were like, yeah, come backstage. Like, they were all stoked to see me, and they're like, so sorry to hear what happened, like, come to the bus afterward, we want to hear all about it, you know. And they played the show, it was amazing. They were giving me shout outs during it, and it was just like, I felt so good. It was just like between Max's pep talk and seeing my heroes and having them give me that kind of encouragement so briefly, you know. And then we go to the bus after the show, and they're just like, tell us what happened, we want to know. Like, I told them the full story, and they're just like, you know what, man, they're like, we believe in you, we always loved you the most, like, you could just tell there was something, you know, and I won't speak for them or quote them much, but they just had such great things to say and such encouraging words, and they were saying the same thing. They're like, you know, don't give up. You need to be in a band with your friends. You need to, like, just stay positive. Something will work out. You're a good kid. You're sober. You play hard. You play well. Like, something will work out. And it actually kind of, like, you know, part of me at first was like, well, I did that. You know, I started a band with my friends, and this is where it got me. You know, like, unemployed. You know, but then I was like, you know, but these are my heroes, and they believe in me, and that's unreal, you know. And so I took a week, you know, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just, I was like, I went out of town for a weekend. I went on a trip with my friends to go boating, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna disengage. I'm just gonna hit the reset button. So me and my friends went out of town. I came back home, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start emailing everyone I know, tell them, like, hey, who needs a drummer for anything? I'll play any style of music. I'll play whatever. I just want to play drums. I'm a drummer. This is all I do, you know. And so I started practicing every day to an iPod, just playing hard. I was playing everything from jazz, like Jamie Cullum, and like I was playing big band stuff, and just like tons of Rancid and punk rock, and lots of hardcore, and just different everything, and just get my chops up. And it was funny because I got home on a Monday and started playing. That Friday, I got a call from Tim Armstrong, and I was like shocked, like, that he's calling me up. I'm like, wow, okay, singer of Rancid calling me up, you know, and he's just like telling me, he's like, hey, yeah, I'm in LA, like, we just played here, and he's like, Brett Reed, the drummer of Rancid, just quit Rancid. And I was just, my heart dropped. I was like, no, like, really? Like, now you're calling to tell me my, like, favorite band just broke up too? Like, I can't handle this right now, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, at first, it was nothing but bad thoughts going through my head. I was like, no, really? Brett quit? Like, no. And he's like, yeah, we have this UK tour that's like 3-week UK tour that's in 5 days. And he's like, yeah, we're just leaving for this tour. And I'm like, man. And he's like, so will you do the tour with us? And I was just like, hell yeah, of course. And he's just like, yeah, rad, like, cool, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, and instantly just my eyes just filled up, you know, just watering. I couldn't believe it. I would have never in a million years, if you told me that was going to happen to me, I would have believed you. Never, ever. And it was just one of the most emotional, insane moments of my life. And the conversation was quick. Tim's like, cool, I'm going to have Lars call you later. We're going to sort out all the details. And I just remember just crying, like, oh my God, who would have thought? You know, it was really special to me. Lars called me up, gave me a list of 25 songs to learn, and I had, like, I think 2 or 3 days to learn them. I played drums harder and longer than I've ever played in my life the next 3 days. I flew to LA, and those guys were do or die, you know. I was the only person they called. It wasn't an audition. It wasn't, you know, anything. It was, Brandon's coming out, he's playing drums for us, you know. And I remember, like, I get to this rehearsal room in LA, I'm just, like, playing drums, warming up, I'm so nervous. My stomach had been knots ever since that phone call, you know, like, wasn't sleeping, wasn't, you know, everything was a mess. Walk in this rehearsal room, and I'm warming up, just waiting for the band. Like, it's just making me more and more nervous. And they walk in, I'm like, hey, and they're like, what's up, buddy? And they all give me, like, quick hugs. I'm like, all right, let's play Roots Radical. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going, okay. And, like, Lars just starts. I'm like, just start going. I'm playing the song, and I'm just like, they didn't mess around at all. It was no bullshit. Like, let's go. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. And then second, they're like, oh, let's try a faster one. Let's try Quite Alright. You know, and I'm like, okay, like, and we just, like, I remember which song it was, bust into it, and just, you know, playing fast kind of came natural for me, even though I'd never really played fast in the U's. It was just something that made sense to me. I'd played enough punk rock that I don't know, it just was comfortable. And we played that song, and their reaction was awesome. They were so excited, and they're like, how about we take a break? And I'm like, okay. So we go outside. They're having a cigarette break or whatever. And right then and there, they asked me to be in the band as a full-time member. 2 songs. We played 2 songs, and I was in the band. And we left a day later to the UK and had an incredible tour. They gave me 15 more songs to learn that night, and we were playing songs on stage I've never even played on drums. I would just listen to them on headphones before the show, and they would throw them out and we'd play them, And I've been in Rancid for 5 years now, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. Made a record in 2009 called Let the Dominoes Fall, and just been working, and then in the meantime, Rancid, they're a career band. They've been around 20 years. Not many bands can do that and say that, so the touring isn't quite what I was used to, as far as we don't go as long and as thorough and as many places, and everybody's got families and other things going on, so we really have to work around everybody's schedules and what works, side projects and everything. So it's actually opened up a lot of things for me, because I've been really into that kind of thing. Like, I own my own skateboard company for a while. I have a studio at my house called Unknown Studios, and I get really into producing bands and doing for other bands what John Feldman did for me. I like to find those small, unheard of bands that have a lot of talent and just need a little direction and a little chipping off the rough edges, and it'll help them so much. So I like to spend my time producing bands. My best friend Brian and I have a side project, little punk rock thing we do called Apocalypse Radio, that we do that for fun. And a dear friend of mine, Adam Willard, plays drums for us live when we do that, because Brian and I played every instrument on the record we did, but live I actually play guitar and sing. It's kind of weird, but I guess I try to be a little baby Dave Grohl, I like to think I'm 1/100th what Dave Grohl is. If I could say that, I'd be honored. But yeah, so I have a blast doing that, and I just want to play music, I love to play drums. It's where my passion is, my heart, that's my life, it's what I do, it's so much of who I am, and it's safe to say that music and drumming has saved my life multiple times, and it's kept me on a path of ambition. I always knew who I wanted to be and the direction I wanted to go to get there, and to me, as long as I can keep that destination just out of my reach, I'm happy. I never want to be complacent and content with where I'm at. There's always, it doesn't matter who you are, you can do better, you can be better. There's room for progression. I think it's important to feel humility. It's important to feel gratitude and be stoked on where you're at. And I couldn't be happier with what I do right now. I get to play drums for a living, and I get to travel the world. I get to play with some great guys, talented musicians, in one of my favorite bands on earth, but I'm going to play more. I want to play more shows. I want to play with more artists. I want to play harder. I want to play better. I want to be a better person. It's like there's always something you can improve on, and I just try to live by that, and always looking for the next thing and what I can do to improve what I'm doing and the people around me, and keeping a sober head, a clean heart, clear mind. That's been a big part of it for me. I respect to each their own. Like I said, some of my best friends are drug addicts and alcoholics, and I love them to death. That doesn't define you. It's who you are inside that's important, and I think respecting other people for who they are and treating people with the respect they deserve, meanwhile treating yourself with respect and going after the things you truly want and believe in, and standing your ground and not being afraid to take the hits that life's going to throw at you. I think if you can live fearless like that a little bit, not to say that I'm fearless, fear motivates me if anything, but I think if you can not be afraid to try and go for it, then you're unstoppable. And so far, the rug's been pulled out several times, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep fighting, and it seems to be working so far. So if that can help even one person out there, then nothing bad that's happened to me has happened in vain. There's a reason, and someone else can learn from it as well and improve their lives too, maybe. That's the best we could ask for. All right, so I'm on stage in just a little bit. I'm gonna go start my warm-up routine and enjoy playing our 20th anniversary Rancid show here in Boston tonight. Very grateful for the guys from Vater to come out and to support me over all the years and give me such great sticks that I can beat the hell out of every night, and very proud to. So thank you all for joining and listening to my story. If you want to hit me up anytime, you can reach me on Twitter at 801punks. It's the number's 801 PUNX. So I'm on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. That's facebook.com/official Branden Steineckert. And yeah, you can check out my studio, unknownstudios.net. I'm all over the place. So come and find me and say hello for sure. I try to do my best to acknowledge everybody and say hello and be in touch, because without you guys, I'm just another guy in my basement playing drums. So I thank you very much for supporting me, as well as the people from Vater. If you haven't checked out Vater, go check them out, because these are the best sticks you will find. So thank you for your time. I'm going to go play a rock show.